you say to a parent, and they're in that what I call twinkling star, shooting star stage, that they are going to, we call it matriculate or make it through the gauntlet, such as Steph Curry, right? I mean, so that kid that was off the radar, okay? So what do you think the ingredients were that the Curry family did to put, say, for example, Steph in that position today that he is where he is now?
And luckily, so we'll go to Steph, and I don't want to get too specific on
stuff,
but in general terms, so as a backdrop, I know Stephen since he's 3 or 4 years old. So his father, Dell, who was a star at Virginia Tech, his mother was a star volleyball player at Virginia Tech. They were clients of mine when I started in the business 25 years ago. So I've known the Curry family for a very long time. What I will say to there's two audiences here. To the parents, you never stop parenting no matter how good or bad your child is. You have to parent. I've seen, and this is not the Currys or anyone, but I've seen NBA mothers, when their son walks out of the locker room with their pants hanging low or their shirt not on right, I've seen them stop NBA players and say, fix yourself, we're walking out, you have to look appropriate.
Right.
And that, to me, if you have the guts as a parent, no matter how good your son is in high school or what star he is, to still parent, at the end of the day, you have to be their friend. I mean, you don't have to be their friend. You're their parent. It's nice to be friend all the time. I also have a client who got drafted in the first round in basketball. He was the 4th pick in the draft a number of years ago.
Okay.
We went home. The draft was Thursday night. Friday, we were in New York. The next day, we were back at his house in North Carolina.
Okay.
His father said, it's your turn to cut the lawn. Go out and cut the lawn. and
I love it.
That player is a very good player in the league and is a great father, husband, and does his job for a very long period of time. And I don't think that's I think that happened. It doesn't happen overnight. That happens early on. The parenting thing, and look, some professional athletes aren't blessed to have both parents. We know that. It's a fact. But there's always somebody, and the stories that I like when I read Sports Illustrated or watch 60 Minutes Sports, there's always a coach, a trainer, an uncle, a grandfather, a grandmother. There's always sort of somebody that's behind that person. And finding that person for the young men and women who are watching this, who aren't blessed with the mother, father, or their people who have time or the right family situation, try to seek that person out. Like it's invaluable in my mind, what I've seen over the years.
Well, that's a good one right there, because you got a lot of people that don't know how to find that and what traits to look for. So in those cases where they feel like they're by themselves, what do you tell them to look for? What do you recommend?
So I don't have the experience myself, but what I've heard from the pro athletes I've worked with, they speak most highly about non-family members when they say, this person has helped me and has never wanted anything from me or asked me for anything.
Right.
That's not a bad first litmus test.
Okay.
Is the person doing it for me, or is the person doing it because of an ulterior motive?
Right.
That's one. I guess the second thing is, and when I'm looking to find athletes or people to work with,
okay,
if I'm searching out new clients, I like to have the client who is, I call the locker room guy. Okay. And we all know who that kid is.
Right.
In high school, who's the kid who looks like he's got his act together? Who's the kid who's working hard? So I told my son, and I tell the young athletes, look, if you don't have anybody, find the guy that you're around on your team that gets it and ask him who he has and try to emulate. So I told my son when he went to Bates College to play lacrosse, I'm like, look, you're going to go there. You're going to star your whole life. Everyone's a star. It's going to be hard. I said, find the hardest working, best kid who's an upperclassman and follow him around and do what he does. No different than, I'm sure, Nick, that you told your son, you told Britt and Shane, your children, hang out with the right kids, don't hang out with the wrong kids. So if you don't have access, look at the kid who's got it figured out and follow him and see who he has. And it could be, we've all heard stories of the athlete who had nobody, who ended up spending every weekend. Look, I have one of my best friends. He played hockey. We played hockey together. He ended up being a college hockey player. His home situation wasn't great. He spent 3 or 4 weekends at my house.
Okay.
We're best friends today. So, we've all heard stories of the athlete who, who had a tough life, went from the kind of house to house, from grandmother to that's what happens.
Right.
We spend time at someone else's house. They meet a friend who gets it. Find the kid who gets it and do that. That would be my advice.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to get into with our programs, what we try to do is break it down in the financial IQ, community, academics, athletics, and nutrition. And we have to hit it right between the eyes. Do you have any stories you can give as far as financial? So now you've got that twinkling star. They've risen through, shooting star. Now they're the star. And then bam, just like right now, we just had the draft. Everyone's gotten through. And now they got drafted. And they're not necessarily the first or second round, but they might be in that, say, fourth to final round, or they're free agent. Do you have any stories that you can give to our audience related to how you should handle your money? And so you don't end up some of those episodes like we saw on 30 for 30 with broke.
For sure. It's the biggest problem we have out there with young professional athletes. There is a story, but a couple comments first on that. The biggest mistake pro athletes, draftable athletes make is when they walk on the stage or get the phone call, they think they made it. You didn't make anything. You have to prove yourself. Once you get there, everyone's good. And like I said, my son went to Bates. Everyone, that's a really top level Division III lacrosse program. Everyone on that team was their high school captain. So you go from being big fish, small pond to being, okay, I gotta go prove myself. The professional athlete, especially football, the draft was just here. That is a meat grinder of a business. Getting drafted is the start, not the end. A lot of players make the mistake of thinking, I've worked hard, I went through college, I did the time, I had my coach Nick Savage training me, I'm ready to go.
Right.
I need it, I'm done. I'm gonna go spend all the money.
Right.
That's not, you can't do that. So you assume that we don't do that. We have a kid who's going to work hard, play a long time. You put your money away and you go to work. The best thing I've heard an athlete do that doesn't have the resources of having an octagon or a family member who knows the business or someone who's smart in their corner, they're inexperienced. The best thing to do is do nothing. If you took your money to a bank, go to your city you're in. And I would tell anybody who signed with the Redskins, a young player, if you don't have someone like me in my business handling your stuff and advising you,
okay,
your money, find the biggest building with the biggest bank name on it, walk in, tell somebody, here's my money, I don't ever want to lose it, don't let me get it. That is not a bad default. And then you build from there until you learn. But it's like, I know I've seen you coach and I've seen you train players. It's all about empowerment, right? Like the way to protect yourself is to be educated. So surround yourself with smart people, not your friends, not your family, people who have your best interests, and don't trust and learn. Don't do anything with your money until you know what you're doing. There's another little rule which I think applies to high school kids, elementary school kids. Nick and you and I could be doing it. CEO can do it. It's the 30-30-30-10 rule. So for every $100 you get, right? 30% goes to living expenses, 30% goes to savings, 30% goes to taxes, or in a young kid, it could go to charitable endeavors, taxes, 10% goes to luxury items. So you can spend 10% on whatever you want. So if you have $1,000, that means $100 you can go buy yourself a new suit, buy yourself something. Our players, they'll buy a car. They will not buy their Rolls Royce until they sign their $100 million contract. So you reward yourself when it's time to reward yourself. Don't pre-reward yourself. But if you stick to those basic numbers, you can't go broke. You just 30% of everything is getting put away. So, for example, we had two quick stories. We had a player in an NFL draft who called me up before the draft and said, I want to buy a car. I'm like, what do you want to buy? He's like, well, I want to buy this Mercedes, super expensive, top of the line car. And it was like $190,000. I'm like, you haven't even been drafted yet. I go, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm going to have the money. I said, well, you don't have the money. I said, you're not doing it. I said, there's two reasons you're not doing it. The first reason is if you don't get drafted or something goes wrong, how are we going to pay for this? And there's great articles if you do,
Right.
they're old, but if you go back and look at Gilbert Arenas when he was supposed to go in the first round and went in the second round,
Mm-hmm.
and a car that was worth more than the salary of his first year, that's a problem.
Wow.
It now worked out for Gilbert in his
Yeah.
career, but you didn't know. So this player, I convinced him not to do it, and it wasn't just financial. The second reason goes back to balance and character and things that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
This player was going to go try to be on an NFL team, and I don't believe a young rookie, whether you're a freshman in high school or a JV player in high school going to the varsity, or a senior going to college the next year, he's going to be a rookie in the NFL. You don't show up with a bunch of veterans who prove themselves with the nicest car in the parking lot. Show up, show your character, show you're there to do a job, earn their respect, and then at some point when you make all pro your rookie year, or you earn your starting spot, then go reward yourself with 10% of whatever you're making, not
Right.
with. So little things like that. And when I'm on TV shows or talking to athletes or speaking at places, everyone wants to know about Chris, Paul, Steph Curry, Michael Phelps. But the best story for money that we've ever had is we had a 4th-round pick in football, I want to say 10 or 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was a Stanford grad, 4-year starter at Stanford.
Right, Stanford.
Very, very low-income family.
Okay.
Inner city Detroit. So he had to do that matriculation from, hey, I'm in the inner city of Detroit, now I'm going to Palo Alto.
Oh, yeah.
Not the easiest thing. 4-year starter, 2-year captain. Signs with us. He's a 4th-round pick. He is the first player cut. So all the people drafted before him,
Wow.
he was number 143. Everyone made the team and he was the lowest guy cut, never should have been cut. Did not play that year, got a $140,000 signing bonus. Did not play that year, tried to play the next year, made it through like the training camp and then got cut. So he never actually played.
Okay.
$140,000. He bought an $8,000 used car. He bought a condo in Palo Alto near Stanford, and he paid for his brother to go to Stanford with his money.
Wow.
He became the academic advisor at Stanford because he was living there, went back to school, put his brother to school. So here's a guy who we didn't know he was going to get cut, but he was smart. And that to me, and now he's got a great career. He's a producing member of the world, and he's helping kids, and he's doing stuff, and super well respected. And he was able to use what he got in the best way he could. And to me, that's a pure success story. The professional athlete that makes $300 million and has a nice house and cars, that's sort of a success story too. But to me, that's a real financial success story. Use what you have the best you can.
Wow, that's a powerful story. Oh, Frank. Yeah. So we're going to stop this one here, but you got to promise it for the viewers and listeners out there. We're going to do one later on Quan Master. So that's, how do you keep the integrity and do all those other things? But I know your time is short, and I really appreciate you taking the time for myself and all the listeners out there. So what I want to do is at this time, thank you for taking the time. And at the same time, we're gonna do one in the future, right?
Yeah, no, it's fun. I like this a lot.
Yeah. And so all you listeners and viewers out there, once again, I want to thank Frank, and thanks for tuning in to Enlighten Dime and the League, and joining us with the League of Extraordinary Athletes. Frank, thanks again for all you do.
Nick, thanks for everything you're doing today.
Thank you.